In 2026, Canon's PowerShot series of compact digital cameras turned 30 years old. It all started with this model, the PowerShot 600, a somewhat clunky looking specimen launched back in 1996 and sporting roughly half a megapixel. I remember it well. As a tech journalist since the early 90s, specialising in digital imaging, I reviewed almost every model in the PowerShot series, including this first one. So, in this video I thought it'd be fun to look back over the series and where it might go in the future as the appetite for compact digital cameras steadily grows again. Now, back in the 90s, long before smartphones arrived, you needed a dedicated camera to take photos. Film was still dominant at this time, but the first digitals began to arrive from the likes of Logitech, Apple, Kodak and Casio. While computer and consumer electronics companies did dominate the early digital camera scene, the traditional camera companies soon joined in. Having dipped their toes in the market in 1995 with a PC card-based camera that slotted into a laptop, Canon decided to release a standalone compact digital camera the following year. Their new PowerShot brand suggested the capabilities of a serious camera but in a consumer package, and employing a classic marketing strategy, this first model wasn't numbered 1 or even 100, instead jumping straight to 600. It sported half a megapixel, a fixed 50mm equivalent lens, and 1 megabyte of built-in memory, which could store 4 best quality photos. And unusually for the time, it also included a slot for a full-sized PC card for extra and crucially removable storage. Despite rivals already fitting their digicams with screens, the PowerShot 600 used an optical viewfinder only, and the hefty size can't even be blamed on the era. Just look what Sony released a few months later with their tiny CyberShot F1, albeit relying on internal memory only. Going forward, it was interesting to measure each company's commitment to digicams, with many employing third parties for lens housings or even OEMing out entire models or series. Take Canon's second consumer digicam, the PowerShot 350, launched in 1997 and looking nothing like its predecessor. In fact, it was simply a rebranded Panasonic VZ XP1, a model which I think was also sold by Konica. Like I say, it wasn't uncommon in the early days for even the largest camera companies to employ third parties, either to get to market faster or simply to test the water. But we had to wait another year for Canon's first model that actually looked like a compact camera that we'd recognise today. This was 1998's PowerShot A5, arguably their first truly desirable looking consumer digicam, and one which set a template for many future models. It still had a fixed lens and just under 1 megapixel behind it, but there was a small screen round the back as well as an optical viewfinder. An almost identical design was used to launch the higher end PowerShot S series with the S10 in 1999, before the first official digital Ixus or ELPH model arrived in the year 2000, again with similar looks, albeit now in an even smaller form. This was the point when Canon's consumer digicams could really be described as objects of desire. Even today I still love the look of this camera. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's briefly return back to 1998 when Canon also launched the first of 3 PowerShot Pro models aimed at high-end enthusiasts. The PowerShot Pro 70 boasted 1.7 megapixels, a 28-70 zoom, flip screen and the chance to record raw files, all packed into an SLR-style body costing around $1,200. This was designed to tempt demanding SLR owners who couldn't yet afford the jump to DSLRs with their prohibitive price tags at this time. The PowerShot Pro 90 IS followed in 2001, sharing a similar L-shaped design, but extending the zoom to a 10x 37-370 range and becoming Canon's first digital camera to include optical image stabilization. This series sadly concluded in 2004 with the PowerShot Pro 1, packing 8 megapixels, a flip-out screen, and the first and only PowerShot lens branded by the red ring of Canon's flagship L series. Now, this model would become the last in the PowerShot Pro series because the ever-improving PowerShot G series was already arguably targeting enthusiasts at a time when budget DSLRs also began to hit the scene. As for that PowerShot G series, well, that's one of the most beloved in Canon's history, starting in the year 2000 with the more suitably titled G1. This traditionally shaped compact camera was packed with controls and features to delight enthusiasts, including full manual exposure, a flash hot shoe, top panel, raw files, flip-out screen, viewfinder, and a larger than average sensor. Most of the innards were also inherited by the PowerShot Pro 90 IS the following year. So, from the early 2000s, the PowerShot range consisted of the entry-level A models, the more refined S series, the tiny Ixus or ELPHs, the Enthusiast Class G, and the sadly short-lived Pro models. During the subsequent years, Canon updated each series with new versions, typically shrinking bodies, increasing megapixels, enlarging screens, and extending zoom ranges. Sometimes though, Canon giveth and taketh away. Most infamously, the PowerShot G series actually lost some of its key features over the years, before enthusiasts and reviewers alike complained loudly enough to see them reinstated on later models. Canon's online camera hall museum shows the sheer number of compacts released during this time, many selling in huge numbers, and another reason you shouldn't pay over the odds for a vintage model. There's a lot of them out there. But the tide was gradually turning. Smartphones were finding themselves in every pocket and sporting ever-improved cameras that increasingly rendered a dedicated compact camera redundant for most people. Camera companies fought back with super zoom ranges and better quality, with the PowerShot series finally offering a larger sensor with the G1X in 2012 and the G7X in 2014. Sony had already proven there was demand for a high-end compact that could outperform phone cameras with their RX100 series, and Canon wanted in on the action. The G7X proved an enormous success and spawned several subcategories sharing a similar sensor, including the G3X, G5X, and G9X. But towards the end of the 2010s, demand for compact digital cameras fell to a point that most companies just stopped making them. Canon's last PowerShots that decade included the G5X2, G7X3 and G1X3 for the bigger sensor models, joined by the SX70HS and SX740HS for the super zooms. Most of these 2019 editions are actually still in the current range 7 years later. Then by keeping most of us indoors, COVID destroyed what was left of this market and handed it to the phones. But during the early 2020s, trends were changing. Nostalgia for old cameras with a lack of perfection moved from film to early digicams, with vintage models being snapped up. Meanwhile, the rise of influencers saw demand surge for enthusiast class models at the high end. Compact cameras at all price points were back on the menu, but caught out manufacturers with nothing new to offer. Inventory dried up on the few models that were still in production, while prices on vintage digicams absolutely skyrocketed. Amazingly, it's taken some time to respond to this demand. In 2023, Canon launched the PowerShot V10, starting a new category aimed at video creators. This was followed by the PowerShot V1 in 2025, but anyone wanting a Canon compact that was aimed at photography first had to make do with older models that were launched back in 2019. Then in 2025, Canon re-released the Ixus 285HS, or ELPH 360HS, which is essentially a camera from 2016, now with a microSD slot, but still with an ancient USB port and a battery that still has to be charged externally. Meanwhile, to commemorate 3 decades of PowerShots in 2026, Canon's taken the still popular G7X3 from 2019, popular thanks in no small part to its large sensor and proper flash, and given it a new graphite colour and control ring finish. Now, cosmetic tweaks to models that are 7 and 10 years old respectively may relieve some of the waiting lines, but doesn't exactly scream commitment to bringing back compact digicams. To be fair, Canon's not alone here, as Sony's RX100 series hasn't seen an update since the Mark 7 in 2019, unless you count the ZV versions styled for vloggers. Not having access to the figures, I don't know how much demand there actually is for compact digital cameras, but everyone I talk to seems to want one, be it a teenager looking for a vintage model, or an enthusiast who wants top quality in a pocketable form factor. Certainly, Fujifilm continues to find themselves constantly sold out of X100 cameras. The Ricoh GR series seems to do pretty well. Vintage sellers keep charging more and more for old models, especially if they're in bold colours. And a wealth of Chinese companies are cleaning up at the cheap end of the market. So I'm going to conclude by saying I for one would love companies to release at least one new compact camera every year, perhaps alternating between affordable and high-end models, and bonus points if they're vintage styled or available in anything other than black or silver. But most importantly, I'd love to hear what you want. Would you be interested in buying a new compact camera? And if so, what would it need to do in terms of features, quality and price? Do also let me know if you owned any of these compact digicams and if they're still in use today. And if you enjoy these vintage stories, please also check out some of the other videos that I've got on this channel that are dedicated to the early days of digital cameras. You'll discover their stories and what made them special back then and still valued today. So happy birthday PowerShot, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.